Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm really happy to be here on the podcast. My name is Tony Caldwell. I'm a supervisor with Language Services here at ISANS, and I'm joined by my colleague.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrea Taylor. I'm the language counselor at ISANS, and very happy to be here to share some information about language services.
So, we're going to talk a bit about our language services. I'm going to speak kind of in general terms about our services and tell you a little bit about the Canadian language benchmarks as well, because if you're studying here in Canada as a newcomer to Canada, you're going to hear CLB and Canadian language benchmarks all the time. So we thought we'd introduce that to you very briefly this evening. And then Andrea is going to tell you more about her role with ISANS, a pivotal role. And most of you will have a chance to meet with Andrea if you do come to us for language services, because she is our language counselor. And so she's going to talk about those services and some of the services that are available to you pre-arrival when you have decided to come and join us here in our beautiful province of Nova Scotia in Canada. So we're going to go through our presentations. We hope that you have lots of great questions, and we're looking forward to answering any of those questions that do come up. But we'll ask you to please save those to the end, or maybe enter them into the chat box on your screen so that we can pick them up, and we'll get to as many of them as we can during our session here this evening. Those that we might not be able to get to this evening, we'll be sharing our contact information, so you'll be able to get in touch with us afterwards, and we'll be happy to answer them then. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen here. Please give me just a moment to bring it up. Right, so before I get into language services, I should speak a little bit about ISANS. I know those of you who have been watching the podcast will already be familiar with several of our services and probably with our organization, but just in case any of you who are watching are here for the first time or haven't heard of us before, I just wanted to say a little bit about who we are. So who is ISANS? Maybe start with, what is ISANS? ISANS stands for Immigrant Services Association of Nova Scotia. And we are the leading deliverer of settlement services in Atlantic Canada. For Nova Scotia, we are the primary contact for services for refugees, for settlement, and for immigration issues. Not just for newcomers, but of course for newcomers to Nova Scotia as well, but also for Nova Scotians and organizations that work with newcomers or who are interested in immigration in the province. So that includes employers, government departments, and other service organizations, and individuals. Our vision at ISANS is to be a community where all can belong and grow. And our mission is to help immigrants build a future in Nova Scotia. We are not only the largest provider of immigration services in Atlantic Canada, but we are also a one-stop shop, so to speak, for immigration services. This includes language training in English, at least. We do have a partner organization here in the city that we work with for French language services. In Canada being officially a bilingual country, those services are available as well, but we provide services in English. Settlement services, employment services, many of which, if you are here not for the first time, will have heard about in previous podcasts. Same with our business development services, community integration services, and support for Nova Scotian employers who are providing employment to newcomers to the province. And we have some online and pre-arrival services, some of which we're going to be talking about this evening. Within our English for Adult Learner program portfolio, we have a number of different programs. These are some of the major programs that we run. We also have some smaller programs, some of which we'll touch on this evening. Some you may hear mention, but we probably won't go into in detail. We have a fairly significant EAL literacy program. Probably our largest program, though, is our Language Instruction for New Canadians program, our LINK program. This program is normally delivered on-site at ISANS in offices and classrooms similar to the one you see in the picture here with some of our learners. But of course, during the COVID times, with the restrictions in place around that, we have had to learn to deliver some of our formerly on-site programs online. I'll speak a bit more to this later in the presentation, but it has been a great opportunity for us to explore new ways to deliver programs and to be able to continue service to our clients, even with all the restrictions that are in place due to safety protocols required for COVID-19. We also are part of and offer the LINK Home Study program. LINK, again, Language Instruction for New Canadians. This is part of a nationwide program to provide LINK online. Our outreach program, which helps our clients who are not able to come into the classroom or otherwise access our programming, particularly at lower language levels, to still access some language services even while they're not able to come into our offices or to our classrooms or join us in online programming. Some of the programs that I'm going to be speaking about in more detail round out this list, partially because these are programs that many are interested in, not just for language, but also for getting into the Canadian workforce, and also because it happens that my part of language services does focus on our workplace communication skills. That includes workplace communication skills themselves, which are present in several different programs, in particular in our higher level language instruction for New Canadians classes, our Bridge to Work program, online programs for skill-specific topics, sector-specific classes which deal with particular industries or particular fields of work, and our English in the Workplace program. So for our program delivery, most of our programs have continuous enrollment, and programs are delivered in a variety of formats, as I mentioned. When possible, which is usually most of the time, a lot of our programs are delivered in face-to-face formats. We have some programs that are purely online from even before COVID restrictions and protocols were put into place. We have some blended learning programs. And of course, we have programs not only for the workplace, but some which actually happen in the workplace. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Some programs are available pre-arrival for those who are planning to relocate to Nova Scotia, to settle in Nova Scotia. Andrea is going to talk about these in more detail in her part of the presentation. Although we do have some pre-arrival services and programs available, our programs are intended primarily for those planning to settle in Nova Scotia. So I'm going to start with our LINK program, Language Instruction for New Canadians, and Workplace Communication Skills, since these are probably our biggest areas in terms of language services for newcomers. We set goals, outcomes, and objectives in these programs, and the instructors in the programs have training in and a lot of years of experience, cumulatively decades of experience in working with clients to determine real world and authentic, it's later in the list, I guess, authentic experiences, but also authentic outcomes and goals. So as part of a settlement oriented organization, we want to help our clients to be effective in their new workplaces and to settle successfully in their new homes. So our outcomes and objectives in our programs are real world in nature. That is to say, we don't study language for the sake of studying language. We study language in order to be able to do things with the language and in real life and in everyday life. So I mentioned at the beginning that I'm going to speak a little bit to the CLBs, the Canadian Language Benchmarks. And although I'm sure you've guessed by the title benchmarks, some of you may be familiar with CLBs already. If so, that's great. I hope I can still add a little bit to that. But if not, this is a term that you will hear very often in Canada. So the Canadian Language Benchmarks are a way of talking about your level of language use in English, and there's a counterpart measure in French in Canada. Now, there are many different ways to, oh, I'm getting a message, sorry. My slides aren't moving. I'm still showing this first slide. Oh dear.
Sorry, Tony, I didn't want to interrupt, but
no, that's okay.
Yeah,
that's
I just thought, were you talking about the CLBs? That'll be important for everyone to be able to see that.
Let me try this again.
Yeah. You could see the first part of your PowerPoint. It just wasn't moving down through your slides there.
So we missed all these lovely pictures of our new Nova Scotians. That's
Sorry about that. I thought we were good. And then
it's good to know. Good to know for sure. Okay, this is how far I was. Let's try going from here. Can you see now the link in workplace communication skills?
Nope, you're going to have to share screen again, I think. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Try that one more time. How
Tony and
now?
I have tried a lot of new platforms lately.
There we go.
There, that's better. Okay, perfect. Yep.
I wonder if I can just adjust the screen. I know it's not best to do this way, but at least I'll be able to know for sure
really
what you guys are seeing.
Looks good.
Right. Yeah, so the CLBs, the Canadian Language Benchmarks, are how we measure your English level in Canada in settlement-related programs. Those of you who have looked into different measures of English ability will know there's a lot of different ways to define how, what level you are at. And of course, the very old-fashioned but very useful basic appellations like beginner, elementary, low, high, intermediate, and advanced. We still understand those, and those have their place in use. But as I mentioned earlier with goals, outcomes, and objectives, our goals, outcomes, and objectives are real-world oriented. They're reality-based. So the Canadian government wanted a measure that was also reality-based. That means that the CLBs, the Canadian Language Benchmarks, tell you what you can do in English. It's not simply what level you're at. It's not an abstract score like an IELTS band score that gives you an idea of your level, but maybe not necessarily an idea of your more specific skills. With the Canadian Language Benchmarks, you do have that. They're task-based, and they tell you what you can do. So with our link classes, of course, using this framework, we talk about things like communication strategies, formal, colloquial, and idiomatic language, pronunciation, workplace culture comes up. That's not exactly necessarily purely a language thing, but it's certainly something that you need language for, and you need to understand to settle successfully in any country and in the workforce there. And of course, we try to make it as authentic and applicable as possible. That also means that our link programs, they're not just predefined goals. We do have themes that we work within in our link program. Things that apply to settling into life in Canada and to being successful in the workplace in Canada. But within those kind of wide or broad themes like health, like soft skills in the workplace, like making presentations, conducting meetings, there are a lot of very specific tasks, very specific outcomes that you might want to work on. And depending on your class or your program, you might be working on this individually, or you might be working on it in a group. In Link, it's usually group lessons. But you have some say in what goes on in terms of the content of the class. Let's say, for example, well, as a real example, we have coming up in a couple months meetings as a theme for the month. But there are a lot of different things you can do around meetings, from the writing the email to invite people using proper register and format, to reading an invitation and understanding what's needed or what is being asked in the invitation. Maybe you have to bring something with you, prepare something, be at a certain place at a certain time or on a certain platform. Of course, what do you say in the meetings to communicate your ideas effectively? How can you understand what the other people in the meetings are trying to communicate to you? All of these things, these different things, some of these things you know, and some you might need to brush up on a little bit, and some might be new topics for you. So in the Link program, you're going to work with your instructor to define which kinds of topics, which kinds of outcomes you want to achieve. Now, overall, the goal of the Link program is to give you, very broadly speaking, language for settlement and workplace in Canada. There's a lot of detail within that within the Link program you're going to have an opportunity to explore. And because we're not predefining all of your course content, you're going to have some say in what is studied in class and what is done in class. This way I don't seem to be able to move to the next slide. Let me have a look here. There we go.
There you go.
So the CLBs, there are special CLB levels for our literacy program. As you may be aware, literacy is more than just the ability to read and write, but includes formal education and learning skills. So you may have excellent listening and speaking skills, but not a lot of formal education in some cases. I don't mean you as you, our listeners tonight, but the general you of people that we might work with coming from different places. And this program will help you to gain those additional learning skills. In what we call our mainstream program, which is the majority of our classes, And this is for clients coming to us with grade school education complete, at least. We have three stages of language learning. CLB 1 to 4 are our stage 1 program, which we consider to be settlement language. So at these levels, you're learning the topics and the themes related to living life, how to go to the bank, how to go to the hospital, go to a doctor's office, um, all these kind of day-to-day things that you need to know how to do to be successful in Canada. In stage 2, the focus shifts to the workplace. We still deal with some settlement topics, but we also start to bring in workplace related topics, like some of the ones I mentioned earlier: soft skills, being able to read complex lists of instructions, some colloquialisms, some idioms that are common in the workplace. And stage 3 of the CLB are academic. Now, as a settlement organization, ISANS doesn't offer any programs directly teaching CLB 9 to 8 tasks or goals. When you're at CLB 9 to 12, your language level is equivalent to someone who's already finished high school and working in university. And that's why many universities who are accepting CLB would require at least a CLB 8 to enter their programs. So we don't deal a lot with the academic side, mostly with stage 1 and stage 2.
But if your goals were academic, that's where a language counselor might be a good addition. Just to jump in with a little segue there, Tony. Sorry, I couldn't help
Thank
myself.
you. No, that's okay. And so, yeah, that's where our Andrea is going to speak more to that side. I should say my part of it, at least, finishes at CLB 8. But
Absolutely.
You're right, Andrea. There are other goals that you might have for language learning for life in Canada that do involve stage 3. And Andrea is going to be able to speak to that and will help you with language counseling to find the resources to meet those goals. So our CLB are broken up into the 4 skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And of course, they all have descriptors going through the benchmark levels and through the stages. What more commonly or widely is discussed as goals and outcomes and objectives in many language programs outside of Canada would be referred to as real-world tasks, skill-using activities, and indicators of ability within settlement language programs in Canada. Not a major or important point, just that I would mention that even though the terminology may be a bit different, a lot of the content and outcomes are the same. So I'm going to move on now because I see I'm getting a little close with my time, and I want to leave Andrea a few minutes to speak. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some of our workplace English programs.
Great.
In particular. These are more limited in availability and offerings, but are still very important pieces to the constellation of services within language services. So our Bridge to Work program is a program that is a partnership between language services and our employment and bridging team, actually, because the goal of this program is to help people to get to work. Now, there are a lot of barriers to entry to the workforce for newcomers. What we're hoping to do with this program and have done is kind of even out the playing field a little bit and to help newcomers access that workforce as well. So this program, in addition to workplace communication and Canadian job search skills, also provides safety training through the course of working through the program. This includes certifications in first aid, in fire safety, workplace hazardous materials labels, and when possible, also food safety. As I mentioned, we have a variety of online courses, which are available in some cases to clients in Canada and in some cases to clients who will be arriving from outside of Canada. And these are great because you can access them from anywhere you have a computer. They're also good for clients who are working and have trouble coming to a scheduled lesson time because of work commitments or life commitments, because a lot of them can be done on a flexible basis. And at times, it's also possible to take this in addition to another program. So these programs are a little more fixed in terms of their outcomes. And when you talk with Andrea about your language learning goals, and you come to ISANS and get a language counseling with Andrea, she'll be able to recommend which courses you should take to meet those goals. This is a summary of the primary offerings in our online courses. There are workplace writing courses. There's a course for listening and speaking at work, a course for pronunciation, clear speaking, one for email writing, 2 for soft skills, and there are actually 2 more that you can do on a self-directed basis on our website about grammar and listening. Is that right, Andrea? Yeah.
You got it, yeah.
So again, Andrea will help you to find the right courses for you and help you to get into them, access them. We also have classes that are sector-specific in nature. For people that work in particular fields, we have a few courses now for healthcare. One that we are just getting to the end of the piloting stage for, that there's been a lot of interest expressed in, is our cell ban preparation course called the Cell Ban Strategies for Cell Ban course. And there are separate modules for each of the 4 skills to help you get ready to pass the cell ban. We're hoping to wrap up the pilot in this course later this month and to be able to offer it again in the near future. We also have courses for people in the engineering field, internationally educated engineers that are working towards certification here in Canada, for people working in the financial industry, and for people in the tourism industry. The last program I'm going to talk about in detail before handing this over to Andrea is our English in the Workplace program. So I mentioned that some programs are available on the job. This is our primary one that happens at the workplace. So this program is designed to help our clients with language needs that they may have found that they need once they're out and working. So this program is usually one-on-one. At most, it's a small group with an instructor, with short terms, with very specific learning outcomes that are decided on by the client and the client's employer at the beginning of the learning plan. It is profession specific, and a customized learning plan is made for each client in the program to help them to achieve those goals. The other great thing about this program is that although it's normally delivered on the job face-to-face, there is also the option to take this program online, which means that it can be done even if you are not living in an urban environment. If you're in the country or in another part of the province, that you would be able to travel into the office, or our instructors wouldn't be able to travel to your job site, you could still access this program via our online platform. So that wraps up my portion of this presentation. So I'm just going to hand it over now to Andrea. I think you're probably all ready to go.
Thanks, Tony.
I'll just close out my screen here so that you can go ahead.
All right. see here. It's funny how new platforms just a little bit different where your buttons are. I'm a creature of habit sometimes. Okay, just 1 second here, everybody. Oh, that's why. See, creature of habit. I keep going to Firefox, and I'm on Chrome.
Different platforms and different browsers.
That's right, exactly. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen. Application window. Share. Okay. Can everyone see that? Tony, is it all right?
You're good to go.
All right, super. So I didn't come up with any kind of a catchy title, but like Tony, I'm appreciative that everyone's tuning in, and hopefully we'll have some great questions to look at after our chat. So I thought I'd talk a little about just what language counseling is, and you know, for us at ISANS, language counseling is where we would work with a language learner to raise the awareness of people's strengths and needs, along with some appropriate strategies, which will better work to meet our learners' goals. So that's kind of a textbook definition. At ISANS, language counseling is a service that's available to all of our clients who need support, who need information, who need guidance, anything related to learning goals. That's what we would want to talk about. And sometimes these questions are very straightforward, and sometimes they're not, and that's all okay. It all comes out in a session. Generally, a session with me would include just setting up a time, and then we would meet online. I've been using Zoom a lot lately, but I'm also learning new platforms to meet on. And we feel that, you know, in a session like this, it's very personal. And so that's why I almost always meet one-to-one with people, although I've had lots of sessions over the last year with families in the living room. Even very little people, babies, have joined us in the sessions, for example. We've all been very creative. And I think the most important thing is that we haven't stopped connecting and meeting client needs in just a slightly different way. So that's been pretty interesting. So the reason that this role kind of exists at ISANS is we do feel that counseling is a critical role, and it helps people to navigate their learning more effectively, to be more, I think, in charge of their learning, to integrate more quickly into either the community, the workplace, or hopefully both. It allows our clients to receive strong guidance and you know, set expectations for themselves that are realistic, that are timely, that make sense, not just with regards to the final goal, but each small step along the way. And then, as Tony was saying, you know, we have a lot of different programs at ISANS, so we can't always present all of that in a coherent way. You know, sometimes, for example, if you were to go to our website, it's a little overwhelming in certain spots where you're seeing everything all at once. And kind of the interesting thing about my role is that can allow me to one-to-one to break down with people and suggest those more appropriate classes to meet those specific needs and eventually goals. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. So I was asked to speak mainly about pre-arrival language counseling, but certainly a lot of this is you know, applicable post-arrival as well. But I wanted to indicate, and it got me thinking quite a bit too, about some things that are of benefit to our pre-arrival clients. So a pre-arrival counseling session would allow us to look at an IELTS score, because of course, as Tony was talking about the CLB system, we can't really do that until after people have arrived here in Nova Scotia. Now, for people who maybe don't have an IELTS document, we do have a pre-arrival assessment platform that we can get a rough idea of your listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills. So yeah, so we don't want that barrier to exist. Just in case somebody doesn't have an IELTS, doesn't mean that they cannot access the pre-arrival services at ISANS. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, and so pre-arrival counseling also allows us to assess what your learning needs look like. to talk about maybe some of the skills that are challenging or some of the questions that you may have pre-arrival, to explore options for studying specific skills or topics. So Tony was mentioning maybe listening and speaking skills are very strong, but perhaps writing skills, for example, are something that you've worked on a lot. So we could target in on an online writing course to help you gain more confidence with that specific skill. Pronunciation is also a really interesting topic that we talk a lot about with our clients. So yeah, so nothing is limited. We lay it all on the table. I found an old picture of myself doing an online presentation, so I thought that was appropriate to include.
That's a great picture, Andrea.
That's an oldie. It's an oldie, but a goodie. All right. Tony and I have seen quite a few changes at ISANS over the years in our language programs, going
Yes,
from
we have.
a team of about 25 people to well over 100 now on the language services side. So yeah, so we like to reminisce from time to time. You'll have to excuse us. But with pre-arrival counseling, again, it just allows us to kind of outline some of the details of language programs. So if you had specific questions around the scheduling for a program, again, if flexibility is important, then we would talk about that and target programs that offer that same amount of flexibility that a person might need. If complete self-study is more appropriate because maximum flexibility is needed, then we could look at some programs that would, again, offer that level of flexibility, self-led programs, for example. And finally, I mean, part of a counseling session is hopefully to start mapping out a bit of a learning plan for each individual that has a session. And every learning plan is different, and learning plans can change. Life happens. I think we've all very much seen that this year especially. So, you know, when, for example, I meet with a client and they're not yet working, that learning plan might look very different from, you know, 2 or 3 months from now when the client is working, and then we have to change things around or explore some different options. So that's kind of an interesting thing from my perspective, is to just see people grow and move within our organization, and then come to a point where they probably don't need to talk to me as much anymore. And for me, that's a sign of success and confidence. So Tony's already mentioned a lot of these programs. I just wanted to, again, kind of outline the ones that are available for pre-arrival clients. So Tony mentioned the online writing programs, the listening and speaking at work program, which is very popular for people who want to work on oral communication skills. Again, a lot of times the writing programs are very popular because they offer that maximum level of flexibility. You can work on the program morning, afternoon, evening, on the weekend, as long as you continue to meet deadlines in our programs, and work with our instructors to better the skill that you're targeting, then yeah, then we're all good. Tony mentioned as well pronunciation and communication. So we have our Clear Speaking online course, which is very popular for people who want to improve not just their spoken pronunciation, but also for listening. Nova Scotians tend to be very fast speakers at times, and so sometimes when our clients are, you know, coming to the province from other places where they've lived and worked, maybe in English, it might sound a little different. People have a dialect here, and that's something that we would explore through our courses and the one-to-one sessions with our pronunciation instructors. Tony mentioned the soft skills programs and some of the topics that are involved in those. So all of these topics, these main 8 topics that we have within the 2 soft skills programs, well, 4 now because we've broken them up a little bit more. These topics came from clients, from classes, from interviews, from people that have given us important key feedback over the years. And so with soft skills, you know, we know that our newcomers are coming here with an abundance of skills, of education, you know. There's no doubt about that. We want to make sure that the way people are conducting themselves in the workplace is aligning with how typically people here in this province do that. And to have more confidence walking into a workplace where these topics are likely to be. So even though small talk tends to be kind of cultural sometimes, we do feel that it's an important workplace skill. So we do cover small talk. giving presentations. I always say to clients, we want to make our mistakes in the classroom, not the boardroom. So presentation skills are really important to target, to work on, to practice in a safe environment, and to get solid feedback from our instructors. Okay. Oh, sorry, everybody. Just got a little message from Moshe there. Hi, Moshe, if you're out there listening. Yeah, so giving and receiving feedback, this tends to be very culturally defined in how we hear from people in the workplace, if we're doing a good job, if we need to improve things. And as Tony mentioned earlier too, it's even one of the themes in the LINK program, which is the participating in typical meetings at a workplace. The other 4 skills we focus on in soft skills are networking, so getting out there and talking with people in your work environment, but also within your field of study or your field of work. Nova Scotia is a small province, and Halifax tends to be a small city. So sometimes it's great to know people within and to have personal recommendations or information from people who are actually in an environment, and they can give that to you and help you to improve networking skills. Language and culture around negotiation. Of course, working with people in the workplace. How do you work as a member of a team, as a supervisor? And then nobody wants to deal with conflict, but it tends to find us eventually. So dealing with conflict in the workplace is another popular topic that we address in our higher level soft skills program. Great, and Tony mentioned as well, I like that picture so much, I guess I had to use it twice, everybody. But I wanted to mention as well the writing emails course, which is a quick 2-week online program that really helps people to polish up on greetings in an email, for example, typical language functions within an email if you needed to ask for information or request something or say no. How do we do that politely and professionally in writing without the help of body language, for example? And then the 2 self-directed programs that Tony also mentioned, which were grammar activities and listening practice. So these are very popular for most people who take our programs to orient themselves to Settlement Online, get used to that platform, and then to practice a little bit with 2 popular courses that we have, one for grammar and another for listening skills. Great. So I wanted to include my contact information here as well, but hopefully we do have some questions that might come up at this point. I don't know how questions work though.
Well, let's have a look here and see what we can see.
Do you see anything, Tony? I'm not sure of the questions I'm seeing on the banner here that Moshe has typed in.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have any questions so far. I thought I might pull up the ISANS website for a minute since we've referred to it a few times.
Yeah.
During the broadcast. So I can see the information on the bottom of the screen is employment and bridging. And don't worry about that. Even though that's not our contact information, we, of course, work with employment and bridging every single day. So if you are watching this now or later and you do think of some questions that you'd like to ask or send to us, you can send it. If you saw our contact information there earlier, that's great. If you send it to the contact information listed at the bottom there, that's great too. They will definitely forward anything on to us.
That's a good point. We do work really closely with all of the other teams at ISANS as well. So even though we've grown quite a bit over the last 5 years or more, I'm still in contact with Moja and Tanya and her team and people that are doing employment or settlement. I miss the drop-ins to my office. I must say I miss people just kind of popping up, knocking on my door. But I guess we do that in Messenger now. Same kind of concept.
Same idea. It's still not the same. We're definitely looking forward to getting back to our on-site services and being able to meet with our clients and our coworkers and our colleagues and our service partners face to face again. But I hope in the meantime everyone is staying safe. Is there a question on there?
Yeah, so Aldrin is asking, how much is the fee for language services? There's a great
Oh,
answer to that question.
that's right. It sure is. And the fee is nothing. Our services are free for newcomers. We really want you guys to come and join us here in Nova Scotia. And we are all about helping newcomers to Nova Scotia be as successful as possible. We would love to do everything with all of you all along the way, but of course, we are constrained by our program offerings and time as well. But for sure, Andrea is going to do everything that she can to plan out a successful path to your language goals, which may also include your workplace goals or your settlement goals. And I and our team of instructors will do our best to help you to achieve them in our courses and in our classrooms.
That's great. I should mention too the Canadian Language Benchmark Placement Test, which is the initial test that you would do to have your listening, speaking, reading, and writing assessed. That test is also free. So once you've completed that test, this is post-arrival, of course, not pre-arrival, but post-arrival, once you've completed your CLBPT, we use a lot of acronyms in EAL, English as an Additional Language. But yeah, once you've completed that assessment, you can be referred directly to a program. You can contact me directly or our language services team directly to ask questions. So yeah, there's no limitation to that. And yeah, as we said, free of charge, all of our programs. There may be the odd book fee for certain programs we offer. For example, IELTS preparation or our engineering program. These courses do have textbooks, but the textbook fees are generally around $40 on average, and they would cover everything you need for a specific course. But most of our courses have no fees at all.
That's right. And our textbooks, those we also do not sell with any kind of market or markup or profit. They're sold at the same cost that we pay to source them.
Exactly.
In some cases, we will source them on behalf of our clients who will then access them through our course. But some cases, like the commercially available textbooks, like Andrea mentioned, the IELTS text, or something like that, you'd be able to buy on your own directly from wherever you can get it for cheapest. And you can usually find a used copy or look around at different providers and find the best price.
Exactly. We had another question from Aldrin. How can we enroll, especially for the soft skills courses? Yeah. Thanks for the questions. So those courses are great because they're offered basically every 4 to 5 weeks. And because they're higher level, generally CLD 7 and above, or for pre-arrival with an IELTS score or an assessment done on our site, a pre-arrival language evaluation. They're generally every 5 weeks, as I said. So I believe we just started one on January 4th. So if we count forward to about 5 weeks from now, we should have another course starting again. And then we just sort of jump back and forth between the two courses. Unless we have a significant waiting list, then we might offer both courses concurrently at the same time.
We might want to make sure we limit our expectations a little bit and say 6 weeks.
Okay,
Just
sounds
because
good.
there's sometimes there's a vacation in there,
True.
or holidays or some reporting or something like that. So
That's a good
five to
point.
6 weeks. 5 to 6
Great.
weeks.
Yeah. Hopefully that helps, Aldrin. Thank you for both of your questions. I think those are really important things that
Absolutely.
probably a lot of people might have been thinking, especially about the cost of services. So thank you for asking. Did you want to take us to the website, Tony?
I'm going to try to do that
Okay.
one more time. This is good, though, if it generates more questions. That's
Totally.
oh,
No problem,
oh,
Aldrin. Thank you.
okay.
Nice.
So can you see the website
That's good.
now? The ISANS website. Great. So this is our main page, and there's lots of information almost possibly a little overwhelming to start with. But the great thing about this website is you can see our different areas right up here along the top, depending on the kind of information you're interested in. So, of course, Andrea and I are most interested in our Learn English information.
We're
And
biased.
you guys probably are too, since you're here. So when you click on this, you can come down and see, you know, a little bit about the process, a little bit about some of the information that we spoke about this evening. We didn't really mention childcare,
We didn't.
but we do offer on-site childcare when our classes are on-site. Unfortunately, for our online classes, we cannot send our ECE staff out to take care of your children. But no, that's just a little joke. um, no,
I do try
but
to entertain them if they show up at a counseling session, though. I do my peekaboo.
there you go. And you usually have some great coloring sheets and
I
crayons
do.
and things in your office there. So
That's true. I miss seeing the kids in my office.
so if you are accessing our on-site services, we do have some childcare available, and that is free as well.
Mm-hmm.
Over here, you can see different kinds of programs, many of which we've spoken about this evening, and ones around the workplace are in this area. So simply by clicking on one, for example, the question was about sector specific,
Yep.
which here is defined as professions specific.
Right.
We click on that. We can see information about the different offerings, the different courses here.
Okay.
And by clicking over here on the plus mark, we can expand that out. So there is a place on our website too, where I just click down here. We have a live chat.
That's
now our staff may not be available at the time. Right now we're outside of our regular work hours for our office. So there isn't someone that's on standby right now, but this still records your message, and your message may be a question for one of us, or may be a more general question about our services. You can write in your contact information here, and that will come to us or to the employment and bridging team or the business workforce integration team, as applicable.
Taking a step back too, Moshe just made a point about registration with intake. So maybe you're looking at the website, but you haven't yet made that step to register with us. And that is important that people first do register with ISANS as a client, and then we can move ahead to offering you information and appropriate services.
Yes, that's right. That's a very good point.
Thanks, Moshe.
And if I recall correctly, for those who have been following the series of podcasts, I believe that Learn English Nova Scotia was also on one of these broadcasts. And so they, as well as doing language assessment, the language assessment that Andrea referred to earlier, that is free to newcomers coming into language programs in Nova Scotia, they also provide additional language counseling service at the time of the language test, to give you your best options.
Absolutely.
If you're at a much higher level, as Andrea said about academic English, she can give you information because she knows about all the programs, not just ISANS programs. No pressure. She can give you information about other ones, but Lens will also do that as well.
Yeah, and Tony's right. Maybe you're coming
with them.
That's right. Yeah, like maybe you're coming to ISANS and your goal is not to study with us. Maybe your goal is university or college or doing some kind of training, outside of ISANS. We can still offer you guidance with that. And as I said earlier, we're a small city, so I'm lucky to have great colleagues at the Nova Scotia Community College, at other colleges that are offering different programs that our clients might take. If you're looking for a university, Halifax is the right city. Nova Scotia is the right province. Sure. We have a lot of universities here and a lot of variety of programming at those universities. So yeah, so again, the advice that I offer, or that we offer as an organization, isn't always specific to ISANS. Sometimes it takes you outside of us, and that's fine too.
Great. Well, if there are no other questions for now, I think we're getting pretty close to time, Andrea?
Did we do it? Wow, look at us.
Yeah,
Two English teachers who know how to talk. Imagine that.
imagine. What a surprise.
That's funny.
Okay, well, maybe this is a good place to wrap it up for this evening then. If anyone has any last minute questions, you could pop them in there right now. But just to close up a little bit, I'd like to say thank you all very much for tuning in, whether it's now live with us or if you're listening to it later. And I'd like to uh, thank Joey and others who have helped at East Coast here to make this available and for having us here on your broadcast this evening.
Ditto. I couldn't have said it better myself, Tony. Thank you so much, everybody. And just really looking forward to having those conversations. Sometimes people have a little bit of anxiety leading up to a meeting with me, but just like the folks at East Coast, we're pretty easygoing when it comes to talking, with our adult learners about their goals, offering advice. So, we really just want to connect with people and make sure people know that we're approachable and that we're here to assist you in any way possible with your settlement and achieving the goals that you have.
So we're looking forward to seeing you at ISANS soon. Thanks very much, and have a good night.
Thanks, everyone. Good night. See you on Monday, Tony.